Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As so many of you know, since January, I have stepped into sort of a new role using media platforms across the spectrum to speak up for everyday Americans who feel ignored by the DC bubble, which isn't the real America. So, whether it's the rising cost of living, crime in our cities, small businesses, I've been working hard to bring common sense back into that national conversation. At the same time, I've felt a very strong pull to stay in the political fight, which is why I relaunched Endeavor PAC. So together we built a national network of data, momentum, and I'm working hard to put that to the best use. So our goal is very simple here at Endeavor PAC. Support pragmatic, winnable conservative candidates in blue and purple states in battleground races with real support, both in the media and financially. And what's amazing is we have already seen an incredible response with more than 10,000 people joining our efforts just since March. It's clear that the American people are hungry for change. They're hungry for real voices and real people to represent them in Congress. So I'm partnering with top national organizations like NRCC, NRSC, and building out smart, focused team working to make sure that the right candidates have the support that they need to win in these races. This isn't just about headlines, it's about building momentum where it matters most. I like to make a difference, I like to make change, and that's what this is about. So, thank you for joining us today to learn more about Endeavor PAC and to hear from our very special, amazing guest. So, my journey over these last several months from Fox News Sunday to CNN Newsnight and beyond has shown me just how important it is to have strong voices willing to push back, to tell the truth and argue in good faith, even when it's not easy. And this political climate today is it's not always easy. But I do feel like we are at sort of the crossroads of really determining what our country will look like for generations to come. It's sort of like our opportunity to seize the moment. So that's why I'm so grateful to call Scott Jennings not just a mentor and a colleague and a friend, but he's truly just been a mentor in the lion's den. He's not afraid. He goes in there every single day, stands up for common sense, stands up for America, stands up for all of our voices. He's a CNN contributor, Daily Mail columnist, national radio host with his new show, which is awesome and amazing. Scott Jennings advised President George W. Bush. He has led winning campaigns across America and co-founded one of the country's most respected public affairs firms. So Scott is known for cutting through the noise with clarity, strategic insight, and yes, common sense. Whether he is inside the White House or on primetime cable news, Scott shines a spotlight on how the media really operates and how conservatives can win in spite of it. I love it. Even the Los Angeles Times took notice. Its owners praised Scott's ability to present his views, always with respect, calling that exactly what our country needs more of. Scott's new book is in bookstores this fall. A Revolution of Common Sense offers an unprecedented insight and look into how President Trump reclaimed Washington and reset conservative governance. So it's super exciting. I've pre-ordered my copy and I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. I hope you all will pick up the book, pre-order it. It's going to be an exciting fall when your book comes out, Scott. So please join me in welcoming our special guest, trusted voice, the common sense of America, America's favorite pundit, Scott Jennings.
Thanks, Tiffany. I appreciate being with you all today. And I just finished, as you mentioned, I've been doing this radio show. I'm in the fourth week now and just got off the air here. I'm at Salem Radio in New York City. So I do the show here sometimes. I do it in Washington sometimes. I do it in Louisville sometimes. And so I'm moving around with it. But we've had a really good start to the show. It's an hour each day. It comes on at 2 Eastern. So it's right after Charlie Kirk and right before Hugh Hewitt. So Salem's got a really interesting lineup. If it's not on in your area or you miss it during the day, you can pick it up on a podcast out there on Apple or Spotify. Just type in the Scott Jennings Show and you can find it. Of course, this is in addition, as you mentioned, to my other duties that I do here in New York. I'm here in town this week to take my beatings on the 10 o'clock news night panel and We'll
You're so
debate it
nice
out.
about it.
Yeah, we'll debate it out this week. Tiffany, you've joined me on the panel before, and we've fought it out together. And obviously I've watched you on a lot of shows and do just a terrific job lately. You've been out there battling in the media, and I mean, you well know it's not easy to do, and you're constantly being yelled at by four or five people at the same time, and it makes it hard to deliver a point and to debate people who are just sort of I think sometimes operating in bad faith and are more interested in insulting you or more interested in insulting the president than they are in debating the issues. As Republicans, as conservatives, I think our job is to try to rise above that, deliver logical points, deliver facts, deliver the truth, deliver the common sense, and that's the mission every day. And my personal view is, and people ask me all the time, like, why do you do this? Why do you willingly check yourself into an insane asylum every night? And um, and the reason is I just think we cannot concede any space. We cannot recede at all, not in business or education or culture or entertainment, especially the media. We just can't concede any of these spaces because I think if we do, those spaces will be filled by people who just don't share our worldview. And I think worldview right now is so important. We obviously fight between Republicans and Democrats. We fight between liberals and conservatives. But to me, there's something larger going on in the world right now, and it's really the fight for the future of Western civilization. And I think right now it's the Republicans and the conservatives, and this has been true for my whole career. But we're on that wall, and the barbarians are at the gate. Okay, I mean, if you can't tell the difference between the good guys and the bad guys in this world right now, then something's wrong with you. And but there are a lot of people who are buying into a lot of propaganda, a lot of anti-Western ideologies, a lot of anti-American ideologies, and we just cannot stand for it because if we can't get that right, we're not going to be around to argue about the rest of it. And so my personal view is we just cannot concede any space in this fight right now. And it's fundamental to our country's existence, and it's fundamental sort of to the foundation of the Western world, which we obviously built our country on top of after thousands of years. So I'm happy to comment, Tiffany, on anything you want to talk about today. You brought up the phrase common sense.
Mhm.
I think when President Trump said revolution of common sense in his inaugural address, that was about the best possible way to describe the ideology of the current Republican Party that I have heard anybody do. Yes, we're a conservative party. Yes, we have our views on individual issues, but being the party of common sense, and after 4 years of Biden and after 12 of the last 16 years of Biden and Obama, where we had to live through a lot of uncommon nonsense, I think Trump summed it up perfectly. That's why I named my book Revolution of Common Sense. I thought that phrase and the branding was just dead solid perfect. And so I feel like a lot of what he's doing on a daily basis is just trying to re-inject some common sense into government, our culture, and have some restoration of you know we just lived through so many years where we all just kind of had to grit our teeth and say, oh, okay, sure, and we were had all these ideologies and cultural norms being busted, and people just had to grin and bear it. Now you don't have to anymore. Everybody's free to tell the truth again because Donald Trump won the election. So, and it's one of the main reasons that he did win. I'm convinced, and I think, and I'll stop here. Is it's one of the reasons I think his coalition is so broad. It's so elastic because I think there's a lot of people who don't want to. They don't think of themselves as political. They don't think of themselves as being in a party necessarily. They don't think of themselves as being liberal or conservative necessarily. They just sort of think of themselves as everyday common sense Americans, and they can tell when something is common sense and when something isn't. And he has great appeal to people who sort of exist in that plane, and they obviously turned out and voted for him. And it's one of the reasons he's made the Republican coalition so much bigger. And since he's been on the ballot, there's this great uh, article that was written in the New York Times a few weeks ago um, about the state of America's counties, There's 3,100 counties in America, and they analyzed each one in each of the last three elections in about half, so almost 1,500 counties. He increased the Republican vote share in every one of them for three straight elections. Democrats did the same thing in only 57 counties, and it was the 57 like highest income counties. So you had like 1,500 working class counties going one way and 57 high income counties, going the other way. So it sort of really kind of shows you the future of the coalition, why it's gotten bigger, and sort of who's responsible for it right now. But anyway, thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited about your PAC, and I'm glad to be on with you today.
No, thank you, Scott. We appreciate you and what you just shared. It gives us hope. And that's certainly why I'm still in the fight. And I remember, sitting down with you and you just said, don't try to be DC. Don't try to fit in here. America needs your voice. And I have to be honest, like I pinch myself sometimes when I'm sitting on there with you, or I was on NBC with de Blasio, and I'm this small town farm girl from the middle of nowhere, and I'm thinking, what am I doing what am I doing on these panels? But I know what I'm doing. I think this is our opportunity to preserve, like you were saying, to push back and win and start to, Endeavor PAC is focused on blue and purple states to start to push the line in these states. Like Washington isn't all lost. Like some of these states that we've written off previously in the Republican Party, they're worth fighting for. And this is our opportunity. This is the timing, I think, to get it done. That's why I'm getting started so early in the midterms. But um, I want to you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to ask you, like, I know you have spent countless hours. Like, I watch you, I study you, I try to learn from you. I want to be better. I want to be like Scott Jennings when I'm on those panels and people are coming at me. Um, when in doubt, just smile, right? Um,
Right.
But you've spent countless hours debating liberals on live television, and I hear this, when I go out and or come back home or travel or talk to other Americans, and they're kind of wondering like, what, well, how do I do it? Or they'll say, you're so brave to do that. Um, but really, truly, all of us have a voice. So, I mean, you debate issues that matter deeply, from parental rights to our freedom in this country to all of the above. And I want to ask, like, what advice you would give fellow conservatives just about staying effective under
Mhm.
fire, because there's still a lot of places in this country where there is a lot of pushback. And I said on a podcast recently, like, love or hate Donald Trump, he's actually doing things to get our country back on the right track. But I think people just maybe need some, I don't know, your advice, your wisdom on how to stay effective under that fire.
Well, I think the best. Well, let me just say this. I think the truth, telling the truth, has not gone out of style.
Mhm.
It works. You just have to be brave enough to do it. And I do think, before Trump came back, I think for 12 of the last 16 years, I do think we had a wet blanket on us in this country, in corporations, certainly at universities and government. Um, I do think there was a sort of a institutional push to try to keep people from speaking freely and engaging in honest conversations. I think that's gone now. I think this election last November has pulled that blanket off. We've seen it certainly in a number of institutions who now feel like, well, we can allow people to talk again and we can stop engaging in some of this, cultural nonsense that was forced upon us. I think this extends to conversations in everyday life, and so I think there's less reason to be afraid now, thanks to the election last November, than there has been in recent memory. So that's number one. Number two, I always say that some of the rules of punditry that I try to follow are number one, keep smiling. Number two, don't take it personally. And if you can follow those two rules, you'll have a positive engagement. I also just think being honest and telling the truth almost always is the carries the day, whether it's in private conversations, in group settings, at your office, at your school, wherever you happen to be. That's what I try to stick to. I mean, because I think we can win when we just stick to the facts and sort of stick to reality. I know you hear this, Tiffany. I mean, how often do we go out there and you wind up debating someone who is engaged in dramatic hyperbole,
Mhm.
exaggeration, frankly, just made up, sort of nebulous, made up stories. I mean, you can sort of almost always tell when people don't have something solid, so they sort of make up a little bit of a story that they think would be a good example if it actually existed.
Mhm.
I think for us, um, telling the truth about reality and not allowing people to get away with some of these nonsensical debating tactics. Also, frankly, not allowing them to get away with propaganda. I mean, we've been fighting this on the Israel-Gaza issue lately.
Mhm.
I've gone out there several nights and fought it out over this issue. And there's I think, a propaganda campaign going on in Western media right now to try to paint a picture that simply doesn't exist. It's not Israel that's starving anyone.
Mhm.
And recognizing that when you see it and not feeling like you have to give into it. I mean, that's the other thing about it, trying to guilt you into a position or trying to use emotions to sort of guilt you into changing your position. You don't have to feel that way because you know what's true and you know what's right. And I think it's vital that we stick to it. There's one thing I've learned is when you're debating people like this who sort of debate this way, giving them an inch never makes a difference. They don't want an inch. They want the whole thing. And so it doesn't matter how much you ever sort of indulge the nonsense. They want you to indulge even more. And so I just try to, keep a smile on my face, but understand I'm just not going to give in to some of the nonsense that we're confronted with. I'm not going to try to make them feel better about it. And if I have to tell them something that's hard to hear, well, that's what I'm going to do. Um, you know, be honest, be of good cheer and be of good humor, but don't back down is my advice.
I love it. No, now's our time. Keep pushing.
Absolutely. Well, I think we have to keep pushing because
Yep.
we're, we are remaking the country right now. The president is changing government for the better. I read something yesterday. This is fascinating. I didn't even know this. Did you know that since 1981, it has been illegal for the federal government to administer a skills test to see if you can work there? I had no idea this existed. So since 81, it has been illegal for the government to give an aptitude test to hire someone for a technical position in the federal government. Trump challenges this a few weeks ago. Lo and behold, a DC court threw it out on Friday. And now, out of the Office of Personnel Management, they can actually administer an aptitude test, a skills test, a technical skills test to see if you, applicant to this job, are qualified to do it. These kinds of little things aren't getting a ton of notice.
Right.
But think about how that would remake government. If you
Right.
can actually hire people based on skill, based on talent, based on merit, as opposed to based on whatever. And so those kinds of things, I think those little pockets of story, they're happening all over because we won.
Yeah.
And so I just have great confidence that after 4 years, we are going to have remade the direction of a lot of institutions in this country for the better, starting with the federal government, of course. But I think it trickles down to other places. I think what he's doing to hold these universities to account is absolutely vital, making them pay up, making them admit to what they did to terrorize these Jewish students on their campuses. I think it will make it so that people can't do that in the future or won't want to do it in the future. And so I have a lot of confidence, honestly, in the direction of our country on those fronts right now because he's got the courage to do it, and um, it's enough to fortify you when you go out and do the debating jobs that we do.
Yes, what's this saying? Good enough for government work?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, let's change that, right?
I
Let's
know it'll
let's
be better
get
now.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So switching over real quick to the campaigns, because you are very familiar with campaigns. You've led campaigns at every level, Scott. So from 4 presidential cycles to key Senate and House races. And given the complexity of today's political terrain, obviously I'm in this fight early because I think that's important for midterms and supporting the right candidates. I'm just curious, what you see as a strategic maybe mistake that campaigns are making right now, and perhaps maybe if there's any overlooked opportunities or races out there that you're seeing that
Hmm.
we should be paying attention to or seizing an opportunity?
Sure. Well, I'll just start with a sort of an overview of where I think the race for the midterms is. I think is highly likely we will maintain control of the Senate. Wish let me back up. I think we're going to get a good candidate in Georgia, and I think we'll have a good candidate in New Hampshire. I wish Brian Kemp and Governor Sununu had both run in those states because I think they would have been slam dunks, but they didn't. So we'll have to have, somebody else, and that's okay. We'll still have a good chance, even if those don't go our way. I really think we're going to have a good chance, a great chance to hold the Senate. So that's where I think it is. I think the marquee race is probably in North Carolina, where Watley, the RNC chairman, is running to replace Tillis, and they've got Cooper, the Democrat, former governor. That's going to be a, I don't know, $700 million race. I mean, this is a going to be a wild one in the Tar Heel state. But again, I feel terrific about the Senate. I really do. In the House, it's interesting. It's obviously closely divided already. The redistricting wars are underway. If they go ahead and get this done in Texas, they may net an additional five for the Republicans. There are some other Republican states looking at maybe squeezing another seat or two out of new maps. The Democrats are talking about retaliating, but they have a harder time because they've already done it. They've already squeezed all the blood out of their blue turnips. I mean, Illinois is already gerrymandered, Maryland, Massachusetts, California, all these states that are talking about retaliating. Well, they've already they've already squeezed about what you can get out of them. So however this plays out, I get the feeling we're in a little bit of an advantage position on this, even though the Democrats in Texas have run off to Illinois, which is sort of funny when you consider that Illinois is the most gerrymandered state in the country. Um, so that will have some impact here. The House races will be incredibly close. It's harder to call these this far out, and because the campaigns just haven't gelled as much yet. But I actually feel a little better about this than what history would portend. And to me, I think we ought to be leaning in to what we voted for. What did we vote for? We voted to close the border, so that's done. We voted for internal immigration enforcement. That's occurring. We voted to make the tax cuts permanent. Done. We voted to fund and bolster ICE and our immigration officers. That is done. I do think the generational welfare reform in the Big Beautiful Bill can be touted. And here's why. Because I think inherently people want the programs to be preserved for people who need it, and they don't want them abused by people who are either A, gaming the system, or B, here illegally. And that's principally who's going to lose out here. If you choose not to work, your choice, but if you choose not to work or to try to meet the requirements, the work requirements, you can't get health care. To me, in a campaign, it's a fundamental question of fairness. What's fair? The single parent who's trying as hard as they can, they're obviously working. They need it. They get it. Not a thing, despite what you've heard Democrats say, they will not be touched. But the people who sit at home all day on grandma's couch and won't fill out even the basic tiny little paperwork required here to be part of this program, they're not going to get it. And illegal aliens should not get it either. And so I actually think you can fight it out. I really do. I do not think this is a debate we should shy away from. I think, the media and Democrats wanted to portray this as some problem for the Republicans. I see it totally differently. I think standing up for American workers and American working families, the people who are earnestly working, playing by the rules, paying their taxes, trying to provide for their families, that's who this is for. It's to protect them from the people who are gaming the system. So I don't, and I think the tax permanence is great. I also think no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. I think the additional tax relief to working class people is going to be something you can run on as well. So I think leaning in to our agenda is a good idea. And I think when people are analyzing these campaigns, you can get a distorted view of what's going on because the media portrays everything Republicans do as negative and everything Democrats do as inherently, therefore, positive or the correct tactic. It's just not always true. It's not
Right.
always true. And in this case, I don't think it's true at all. I think we can win this debate on Medicaid. I really do think we can win it. And if I had voted for it, if I had been in the Congress and I had voted for it, I wouldn't have any worry whatsoever at all about going out and saying, yeah, I voted to save it for the people who need it. And along the way, I cut taxes for, folks who work for tips. I mean, massive tax relief for senior citizens. I mean, these are going to be very, very positive things in a campaign. And I think I'll just leave you with this. I think Democrats have gone out on a very long limb here on some of the claims they've made about Medicaid. They've claimed every hospital in the country is going to close. It won't. They've claimed that every time you talk to one, the number gets bigger about who's going to lose health care. They won't. And when some of this stuff doesn't come to pass, it sort of reminds me a little of the 2017 tax cuts, what Nancy Pelosi called the apocalypse. Of course, after we cut taxes in 2017, federal revenues went up. Like we had more money coming into the treasury after we cut taxes. And so we'll see if their dire predictions come true. I have a feeling they're not going to.
Hmm. Yep, spot on. I mean, I was arguing on ABC with a Democrat who was saying this gerrymandering in Texas is a threat to democracy and we're going to lose our country. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure that what the facts are is Democrat, Republican, and independent commissions all do this. And Democrats have gerrymandered their states so they can't pick up any states because they've gerrymandered them to hell and back. So that's all already done.
Well, look at Illinois. I mean,
Yes,
it's like a
perfect
55
example.
45 state, and we have 3 seats. I mean, it's,
Yep,
I mean,
yep,
and if you're worried about mid cycle redistrict, I mean, they did it in Pennsylvania, they did it
yep.
in uh
California.
the California, did it in New York. I mean, it's
Yep.
so I think their protests here ring a little hollow to most people. Plus, it's a little of an arcane thing. Like most people don't follow it that closely. Um, but I will tell you, it's interesting on the Texas map. I think the 5 seats Republicans are hoping to net out of it are all majority Hispanic,
Hmm.
which ought to give you some idea about how confident the Republicans feel in the new standing that
Yeah.
the party has with Hispanic voters. And
Yep.
so, none of these things are done. You can't guarantee the outcome of any election, but I think there's a lot of confidence at the White House and just in the Republican Party in general about the party's ability to continue to grow with Hispanic voters, which is a beautiful thing for the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, Scott, I want to touch on your book real quick. Just give us a little nugget or insight. Obviously, as a mom of 3 boys, a farm girl in a hardworking community, completely outside of the DC bubble. I'm doing this because of how we started this conversation. I'm deeply worried about the future of our country. I ran for U.S. Senate because I was worried about my children and their future in this country. So it is exciting, like you touched on, that President Trump won the election and he's making massive strides. Um, but we need to make sure it lasts. And I know that's what your book focuses on. I think it will be the book of the year, A Revolution of Common Sense. So you argue that President Trump's second term it's more about policy wins. It's about rebuilding civilization itself and our conservative movement. So just real quick, what does that look like, and
Mhm.
how can we all sort of be a part of that?
Well, first of all, you can pre-order it right now. So you go
Yeah.
on Amazon, you can type it in and Revolution of Common Sense, Scott Jennings, and you can buy it. It'll pop up. There's a picture of President Trump on the cover of it. And I know he likes it because I let him pick the photo for the cover of the book. I may be a mediocre author, but I'm excellent at marketing. And so I told the president, you can pick the cover, and they sent over this photo. And so he's
Mhm.
very happy with it, and so am I. It's a great photo. I picked out so I had the idea to write the book in January. I met with him about it in February. I thought it would be sort of roughly about the first 100 days. I went a little beyond that just so I could capture some of the results of what they did. Um, I don't know who attributes you attribute this quote to, but good books are never finished, only abandoned. And when I finally had to turn it in, I felt like there's 10 other things that are going to happen tomorrow that I wish I could put in there. But I really wanted to capture some of the big issues that dominated the first 100+ days of the administration. Some are policy, some are cultural, some were, the fights the president picked on immigration or, other issues that I thought were great examples of how he kind of swept back into Washington, caught his opponents flat-footed, but all in service of this idea of trying to restore common sense to our culture. I interviewed him. I spent some time with him. I interviewed several people in the cabinet, White House senior staff. I flew to Michigan with the president on his 100th day in office, and sort of watched his 100-day rally live. You know, I interviewed Elon before he sort of went off the reservation. Um, come back, come back. That's what I would say.
We'll get him back.
Yeah, I did see he gave some money to Trump's PAC the other day, so we'll see what that means. To me, a couple of people that stand out in the book are Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent. I interviewed them both at length. I think they really have been all-stars and the portfolios they've carried, and some of the biggest wins of the president have been in their domains, and so they're really kind of all-stars in the book to me. But I told the president in February I thought there'd be 100 Washington types who wrote books crapping all over him, and I thought there ought to be somebody who comes from Middle America who understands what he's trying to do to write one book that would be an explainer for the first 100 days for the people out in the middle of the country who just wanted to change. They knew we were on the wrong track and they wanted to change, and so he thought that was a good idea. So that was why I wrote it. It's my first book. It's hard to write a book. I thought writing it while it was going on would make it easier. It made it harder. I've written this book 5 times already, and so um, because there's a lot of balls in the air during the first 100 days, but I'm pretty happy with it, and looking forward to getting it out there in November. So thanks for letting me talk about it.
Yeah, but we hope to have you out here in Washington to promote it and sell it. So, uh,
Yes, thank you.
yeah, Scott's going to stick around for a couple questions and answers. So if you have a question, please raise your hand in the chat box. But real quick before we do that, I just want to update you on some of the candidates. Um, like I mentioned in the beginning, Endeavor PAC doesn't chase headlines. We actually build momentum to make a difference and invest in candidates who are disciplined, courageous, and competitive who can win. So I've sat in that candidate chair. I've studied the polling. I've run the numbers. I've been in the hot seat. I know what to look for. And we have a network to make a difference. So, on our last call with Senator Sheehy, we sort of reviewed the landscapes of the House and Senate and governor races this cycle. We've identified 30 targeted races in blue and purple states. So, aiming to raise $300,000 for direct candidate contributions. So, I am pleased to share with you all the first round. You're the first to know the first round of candidates that we are supporting this summer. They are getting money sent their way and support sent their way. Number one is Winsome Sears. You all are probably very familiar with her. Um, Glenn Youngkin is term limited out, so we have a battle on our hands to hold that seat. But Winsome, she's a friend. I've gotten to know her over the last several years. She's a fighter. She has an amazing story with the backbone of service. So looking forward to supporting her. In the Senate, we have Mike Rogers. There's a open seat in Michigan. The Democrat senator is retiring. So Mike Rogers is the real deal, former congressman, FBI agent, Army officer, and he was chair of House Intelligence Committee. So he spent his career defending America. He will be great. In the House, we're looking at Michigan '07, Tom Barrett, 21-year U.S. Army veteran who served in Iraq and Kuwait. He knows what service and country truly means. Young Kim, people out here on the West Coast are probably very familiar with Young Kim in California. She is a trailblazer. She is the first, one of the first Korean American women in Congress. So a powerful voice for opportunity and freedom. Rob Bushanahan, Pennsylvania '08. He is a powerhouse candidate. He flipped Pennsylvania's 8th district in 2024, defeating a longtime Democrat and one of the toughest battlegrounds in the country. So looking forward to helping him hold on to that seat. Derek Van Orden in Wisconsin is also a seat that we need to fight for. So he's a fighter and he goes on national media a lot and says stuff, but we can hold that seat. He flipped a Democrat-held seat in 22 and then held it in 24. So proving that he can win these tough races. So thank you to everyone who has already joined Endeavor PAC, contributed to this effort to help us bring support to these candidates. I can tell you as a former candidate that started with 0 emails and 0 money, that early support is important to building the infrastructure that these individuals need to win. So if you haven't already joined Endeavor PAC or you're willing to contribute more, I hope that you will consider that today. So there are a lot more candidates to help. Like I mentioned, we're targeting 30 races, blue and purple states, raising $300,000 for those candidates, and we'll be able to help them nationally. So There are fun donor clubs, and we have events throughout the years with key insights to policymakers, thought leaders like Senator Sheehy and my friend Scott Jennings. We actually have an awesome event coming up in Seattle with Jason Rants, so mark your calendars for that as well. Each individual may give up to 5,000 annually to Endeavor PAC. Couples can obviously give 10,000. So please consider joining us, joining in on the fun. It's going to be an exciting year. It's going to be an exciting midterm. It'll be a fight, and we have to be out front and we have to be early. So every bit helps us get our message out there to support these candidates. I know what to look for. I've been on those front lines. So you are helping amplify just your support and helping conservatives win these critical and winnable seats. So together we can continue to restore and protect the American dream for generations to come. So there's a QR code on the screen and on the slide deck, and we will follow up with emails as well. So thank you so much for your consideration. None of us do this alone. We're all in this together, and I can tell you how awesome that is and how great it is when I sit down on a panel and I have Scott Jennings on the other side of me. There's nothing more that gives you more confidence and just this a strength that we are not alone in this journey. So um, Scott has time to take a couple questions. So if anyone wants to raise their hand, I think Don will moderate, but now is your opportunity. He's obviously a fascinating, dynamic person. We're so lucky to have him. So
Great. Yes. Thanks, Tiffany.
away. Yeah.
Great. We will start. Mike in Seattle has a question. How can we return to fact-based reporting and news when so much of our media has become clickbait and headline grabbing?
Yeah, well, from your lips to God's ears, I mean, I would love to see more facts in news. I mean, I will tell you, I think um, one of the things that's happening in our news media right now is the democratization of journalism and sort of news and information, and more independent sources are popping up that are doing excellent work. I don't know if you all read the Free Press or not, for instance, the FP. I read it every day. But what I'm thinking is happening is there's a weakness in the traditional sort of stalwart mainstream media outlets, which is leading to a market demand for something better, more fact-based, more honest, and it's causing these other things to pop up, which are getting lots of eyeballs. Whether it's something like the Free Press or whether it's something like, some of these podcasts that are generating millions of views, you can tell there's just a hunger for something better, a better product. And traditionally in markets, what happens is when people stop looking at your product or buying your product, you improve yourself. You try to do something better and fix it. It's not happening yet in some media outlets, but it better start, because if not, they're really going to struggle to stay afloat, to stay around. I mean, you already see it happening. I mean, media outlets are, in some cases, really struggling to survive. I mean, the only way the New York Times survives is because now they make you pay for crossword puzzles and recipes. I mean, that's how they, stay afloat. It certainly isn't for the news. They put it on the front page of their newspaper, which isn't news at all, but propaganda. So I think the market here is going to continue to help sort this out. And it may be that it won't be too much longer before the most trusted sources and the most trusted names in news aren't the ones you're used to hearing for your whole life. It may be new things that have popped up that are just frankly doing it better, being more nimble, but adhering to something a little more honest. The Gallup poll does this confidence or trust in institutions survey, and they always test the media. Back in 2004, when I was working for President Bush, over half of America had what they said was a great deal or a fair amount of trust in media. Today, that number is like 31%, and 36% say they have no trust at all. So more people have no trust than have a great deal or a fair amount combined. And so this industry has absolutely been in decline for over 20 years. And now, because of technology and how easy it is to sort of access communications tools to communicate broadly, not only are they losing trust, but they're gaining competitors. And so I'm thinking that if these things don't turn themselves around and try to get back to the basics, their competitors are going to eat them alive. And you're going to see more and more people pop up who are just simply making a better product that more people trust. than what you're getting out of, some mainstream outlets right now.
Mhm. When are you getting your own show on CNN?
I wouldn't hold my breath. Uh, but, I have to say this about my employer. What we're doing at 10 o'clock every night is good.
Yeah.
It's the only debating show on TV. It's the only real debating show on television. A lot of cable has become six people sitting around agreeing with each other,
Mm.
and it's boring and you don't learn anything from it. The debating show, and Tiffany, you've been on it. I think it's good for them to do it.
Mhm.
It's the most buzzy show we have. It's generating the most social media and viral sort of moments. But it's also finally giving, I think, conservatives a platform to fight it out.
Mhm.
And even though it's often, lopsided at the table, uh, we still get our chance. And I think that's more than we had been getting. And so I do think it's good that they're doing it. I will tell you, basically it's our highest rated show. It's our highest rated show on the demo. It's our fastest growing show. And in terms of how
Because of
people
you.
are, well, I'm trying. But in terms, interestingly, in terms of how people consume it, I mean, this gives you a little window into it. On any given night, you might have like six or 700,000 viewers. So, it's 330 million people in the country. So, you can do the math on that. But by the next day, a clip of what happened on that show, something I said, it could have millions of views, 2, 5, 10 million views. And then the next day, or in the week ahead, on third order distribution, people using it inside their own YouTube shows, people using it on their radio shows, you get even millions more. And so in terms of how people are consuming it, it may be that most people right now who are consuming CNN or CNN content are not seeing it live, but they're seeing it in
Yeah.
the aftermarket of the clips and of the clips being used by other shows. I joked the other day that we're like the NBA. Nobody watches the whole NBA game, but everybody gets up the next morning and watches the highlights. We're that 10 o'clock show. We're like the highlights. People want to see who dunked and who got dunked on, and and so, but that's okay because if I were in CNN shoes, I would say, well, I mean, maybe a whole bunch of people who never thought about watching CNN are now actually seeing something. So how they eventually monetize that or how they eventually harness that for their own distribution purposes is yet to be seen. Uh, but there's a lot of people out there doing it right now for them. And so for brand awareness, it's a good thing. I'm not sure as a business matter it's helping them yet, but as a brand awareness matter, it's terrific.
Well said. Up next, we have our good friend Gary Peters from Lewiston, Idaho, has a question. Gary, I think your phone's unmuted, so you should be able to
Can you
talk.
hear me, Don?
Yes.
All right. Hey, thanks. It's more of a comment for both Scott and Tiffany. I mean, Tiffany kind of killed it in the intro, and Scott's like hit every point you could possibly hit because they're both so good. But I just want to say thank you to both of you because I know your audience probably, you guys rattle it off so quick that, oh, we're in New York, we're in Washington, D.C., we broadcast from Louisville, we're here. I don't think many people realize logistically what you two have to put together to accomplish what you're doing. And to do that, to step into the lion's den for what is basically a thankless position job that opens yourself up to a massive amount of criticism. So I would just like to say thank you to both of you for doing what you do and going the media route in order to convince people that adamantly disagree with you, but to try and convince them of your way of the American life and the agenda that they're not used to. And I have to admit, Scott, I had not watched CNN ever before in my life. Maybe like the NBA, I clicked it on, then I was gone. And now I religiously watch CNN and watch your segments after Tiffany told me how amazing you are, and I enjoy it. So again, just thank you to both of you. I'm kind of like Tiffany. I live on the other side of Washington. We get lumped into the Seattle side, but we're actually one of the most conservative areas in America. But we're kind of in that redistricting battle that's going on and playing
Hmm.
catch up. But anyway, just come out here, help us. We'd love to do an event to help you sell your book in Idaho and Washington. There's a lot of amazing folks out here on that side of the state. Tiffany is just a massive voice for those. And anyway, just thank you both. Appreciate your time and everything you're doing.
Well, thanks for your comments. You're very kind. I do want to get out there and do a book event, and really appreciate the invitation. So appreciate your comments, and thanks for watching a little bit. I know I know it's may not be in your usual media repertoire, but thanks for throwing it in from time to time.
Well, thanks again for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, everywhere I go, if I bring up CNN, everyone says Scott Jennings, and then I have Fox News hosts like, take a picture, send it to Scott. Let Scott know you're a hero, Scott. So we appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being a mentor and a friend. And we'll keep battling it out in the lion's den. And I'm excited. I have a lot of hope for our country and the future, and having people like you, to ride alongside with, to watch, is I mean, that's what makes this country great. I feel deeply blessed. So
Well, you're very kind to invite me to this, and you should know everybody loves you, and you're one of our brightest stars. And whenever I turn on my television and I see you and I see the work you're doing to advance the candidates that you believe in, makes me very hopeful. So thanks for being in the fight. When I think about, like, what's going to be the face of the Republican Party, and it's always the candidates, and it's people always step forward, and when someone like you, Tiffany, steps forward, it puts the best possible face on a political party. And so very grateful for you, and you've run in tough places and fight in tough places. So on behalf of the Republicans that I deal with on a daily basis, thank you for your service and what you do.
of course, this country's worth it. So
Absolutely.
brighter days ahead. So thank you all for joining us. I deeply appreciate it. We will be announcing our next virtual special guest here very soon. But please do mark your calendars for September 16th in Seattle with radio talk show host Jason Rantz. He is on Fox News often as well. And unfortunately, he probably will be on the news today, as we just had someone here in Washington attack an ICE agent.
Oh
That's,
no.
yeah, yeah, that's making national rounds. So um, Washington is not lost. There is still hope here. So please consider joining us at that event. It'll be a live event in Seattle. And again, please consider contributing today and supporting all of our efforts going forward. Thank you, everyone. Deeply appreciate you all. Thank you, Scott.